I'm David Hunt, and welcome to my little bit on Bent TV, which is called Amazing People from Our Community. The guy today, I'm not sure if he's amazing, but we've got him on anyway.
Thank you, David.
Grew up in Elstonwick. He reckons he's met Dolly Parton. I don't believe it, but we'll try and work that out. Strange Fruit. What's Strange Fruit? Anyway, still a cover band, a Village People cover band. And so many other things. And there's now a bar called Grouse. Is that made up as well, or is that true? Trevor Wight, hello.
Hello, David.
Now, we've known each other for many years.
Yes.
Mid-80s, I reckon it was.
Yeah, went to a party at your house in Albert Park.
Oh, did you? Is
Yes.
that how we met?
Yes.
Because I don't actually remember.
Through Janet.
Through Janet, who I used to work with at Virgin Records.
Yes.
Where did this love of being crazy doing comedy? Because you were part of the comedy scene there for a while, weren't you?
I just like to make things up, which translates into the bar as well. It's like I just have ideas and I somehow find a way of making them happen.
What about as a kid, growing up? Were you this crazy mind then?
Yeah, I used to do shampoo commercials in the bath. I used to do a cooking show. Even though I only could make French toast. And I did a television game show in my bedroom, and I used my record player as a wheel, and I had a Milo tin where I'd draw the contestant's name out.
And that was before, like the mobile phones where you could film it and all that.
David, only just before mobile phones.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Life was good growing up, parents. Have you got siblings?
I have siblings, and my parents are no longer with us.
Well, when you're as old as you are,
thank you so much. Yes, correct. But I'm very close with my nieces and nephews. I'm actually closer in age to my nieces and nephews.
So you were the late.
A mistake. I was actually born not exactly 9 months after Collingwood won the premiership.
Yeah, you go Pies, go Pies. Okay, so that's lovely then that you've got that connection with family, as in nieces and nephews.
Yeah, that's very important to me. And again, there's the footy thing there.
Yeah.
But I grew up, like my sister had a child out of wedlock.
Oh, shocking.
And I grew up in housing commission flats in Elstonwick. And my sister and her kids lived close by. So like they were always around. Like my nephew's only 7 years younger than me. And
right. Oh, okay.
9.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're kind of like siblings to me.
Yeah. Like living out in Elstonwick and having a fairly good life. When did you realise you might have been gay?
I probably knew all along, but I didn't come out till I was 37.
Right. Okay. Why?
I just didn't. I didn't think it was something that was possible. Like it just wasn't. It wasn't real to me.
Okay.
As soon as I embraced it wholeheartedly when I got there.
So what did you do in the meantime? You just had friends that you. What did you have, girlfriends? Or?
I had a couple of girlfriends. Tried to convince myself that, but like they never long term. Like I couldn't convince myself enough that I was satisfying.
Yeah.
And had crushes on lots of my straight male friends.
Is that your fantasy and stuff?
It's interesting because like some of them very much so. Like some of them I was physically fixated with, but others I just wanted to be around all the time.
Okay.
Like it wasn't always the same.
Yeah.
And then when I saw pictures of men with their tops off and stuff like that, that was always where I was attracted.
What was it like coming out? Was it a slow process, or were you sort of doing it without telling? Sort of going to a gay club or whatever before you started telling people?
I was living in a share house, and I started going to clubs, and then it wasn't long after I was with my first fella that I came out to my housemates. I don't think it was neither of my parents were still alive at that point.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that was a release or a trigger, or whether it would have happened at that point.
Yeah.
It's like I was living in a shared house. One of my good mates, Juzzy, he straight, but he liked going out to the clubs, and he would sometimes, I'd work on a Sunday night, he'd work on a Sunday night, and we'd go to the Peel. And then he took me to winter days at the docks.
They were great parties, weren't they?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that, like, once I started doing that, and then I started going to the Peel by myself when Juzzy wasn't available, and stuff like, righto, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen here. And
Was it easy to come out to all your friends? Or did they actually suspect and thought, oh, about time?
I'm sure you've heard this story before. In a way, that kind of makes it harder, even though, like, they know, they've, you know, no one is surprised. And you kind of, in a way, it's kind of, I don't want to prove them right. My family, so my sister, her only reaction is, why are you telling me now? And some of my, like my oldest nephew, like it's like I told him I'd won the lottery. Like, he was so excited for me.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And so he'd guessed, or no, he hadn't?
Look, I don't know.
Because you're not outwardly a gay person, in a way.
Don't even love musicals, David.
How dare you? Hand back your card. Come on right now.
Hey, I've seen some that I like.
Well, you are more on the alternative side, aren't you? You know, like of a gay person. You're not the stereotype.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like,
no, you're not.
There are camp things that I really like.
A Village People cover band.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, because I'm fascinated. When I read that about you, I went, that is too funny. But it's so you as well.
So some mates of mine were in a 70s cover band, disco cover band called the Stone Cold Boners. And one of the lead guys in that had an idea to create an offshoot, which was Village People cover band. So we set up, they already had management, and I'm not a strong singer, but I can hold one note, which is all you need to do in the village, in the Navy. It's like, but I choreographed. They were all straight.
Oh,
bunch of straight blokes.
Yeah.
And I was a construction worker, and I was the only one that had any interest in dancing. So I choreographed the whole thing.
And was it successful?
Yeah, we had some really good, like, I went to Hong Kong. I went to New Zealand.
Whoa!
We played on the MCG at the cricket. No one paid us any attention at all. Like, that was pretty weird. But yeah, we had some Jupiter's Casino on my Gold Coast.
Yeah,
yeah,
fantastic.
We had some good gigs.
How long did it last?
I reckon it was like maybe 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much full time if you were travelling and stuff.
We had some residencies at the Ritz, but no, we didn't. Like, I still had to work in the pub.
Mm. And you've always worked in pubs, have you?
Yeah, I was, like, early on, I had a part-time, like, I was working full-time, I had a part-time job in the pub. I was in hospitality for probably 15 years, like, in my early life, and then I went into other pursuits. But yeah, I had a bar in the city. That's right. We owned a bar with some mates in Lonsdale Street in the city. That was in the late 90s.
Okay.
Over 2000.
Then you went off to America at some stage.
Yeah.
And you got a job at Dollywood, which is the Dolly Parton theme park.
Yeah.
And did you really meet her?
Meet is probably a bit of a stretch.
I knew.
Well, I spoke to her.
You spoke to her. Hey, Dolly! Yeah. And she was walking 100 metres
No,
away.
I've got a photo of us with she was there.
Yeah.
But we were at Dolly's Festival of Nations, and so Dolly had representatives from all around the world, and we were the Australian contingent. And so what happened at the beginning of the festival, Dolly is there, and so it was just this kind of cattle line. It's like, so our group stands here.
It's like the Queen. You're walking along meeting the Queen.
Yeah. You get a little moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the group before us, Dolly's over there having their photo. Then she comes over to us and says, "Hi, she's very gorgeous."
Yeah.
And we have her photo, and then she's back over to the other side for the next mob.
Yeah.
But then the closest we actually got to her was like there was a parade, the opening of Dolly's Festival of Nations, and we were right next to Dolly she was on her float right behind us. So
Now, you created original pub bingo 20 years ago.
Yeah, I reckon. It was definitely the first one in Melbourne, and I'd be surprised if there was many.
And that was
else.
trivia as well, bingo and trivia? Or
No,
yours
it's just
was
bingo. Yeah, just bingo. Because I got the idea. Well, friends of mine, Fred and Ali, opened Terminus Hotel in Abbotsford, and we ended up being business partners in '44. And they asked me to come up with an idea of something to do on a Wednesday night. And when I was in my late teens and stuff, my sister used to go to real bingo, and she had a crush on this guy called Bingo Joe. And he had like that northern English accent.
Right.
And it's like,
Brilliant.
76 drum boards in the big parade. Well, she was just 17 and you know what I mean. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that could be like, that was ridiculous. And what I liked about it was it wasn't so much about me. It was like the whole room was doing, so we had all the calls and people would get really involved in it.
But it was for a younger audience.
Yeah, at that time, so Abbotsford at that time was a lot of students and, people working in the arts and stuff like that before it got expensive. And so, yeah, there was like 20-something-year-olds and we're all just being stupid together.
Yeah, like you did it for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, if anyone asks me, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Although, a lot of the calls, we've kind of had to have a good hard look at some of the calls. They were never done with any malice, but you just kind of go, maybe we shouldn't be saying that.
Then you created a solo show about your life.
Yeah.
And you performed it here in Melbourne, took it to New Zealand and San Francisco.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the story that you were telling?
My two big loves are the pies.
Which is Collingwood, Go Maggies.
The Mighty Maggies, and disco. And I have memory of like all the different dances that I used to do over, the period of 20 odd years in various clubs.
And
My first ever disco that I went to was at the Elsternwick Hotel.
Right.
There was one particular, I don't think I've ever seen anyone do the same dance. It was like it was kind of a bit of a bent on a Sharpie dance, and but it was kind of a twisting motion. So I just had these series of songs and dances to go with these songs, and just told stories about those various points in my life, and made some observations. Going back to that thing of saying things that aren't right. Like one of the periods was. Remember the period when people used to go out of their way to tell bad taste jokes, like about babies and so little commentaries on things like that.
I have a problem with a lot of comedians now that just all they do is pick on people. And
yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around it.
It's one thing to observe differences. It's another if you've got some nastiness about it. It's like stop it, don't.
You tied yourself up with Yola, and you were part of management of it, and doing the accounts and all that of Strange Fruit.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers what's Strange Fruit.
Well, Strange Fruit is an aerial act. It's still in existence. It's not called Strange Fruit anymore. It's now called Sway. Over COVID, because it was a touring company,
and toured the world.
We set up an American troupe. We trained a bunch of Americans.
But just describe what it is. So it's these huge poles. How tall are they?
They're 4.5 meters.
Right.
And so the performers were strapped in around their thigh. So they can actually, and there's a perch, but they can lift their feet off the perch. And the poles bend to such a degree that they can dive right down, and they can, it's great spectacle because you can see it hundreds of metres away.
The MCG.
Grand final.
Grand final.
Yeah.
One year I remember seeing them. And Fed Square, they would be in Fed Square. And yeah, it was, and it was great because it was all different costumes that they would wear.
Yep.
Like, and quite glamorous but outrageous as well.
Yeah.
And obviously there were circus people that were doing it.
Well, not all of them. Like the performance aspect came first. Like, and it was kind of a mixture of dance and circus. So a lot of people came from a dance background.
Okay.
And it a lot of it
would be terrifying.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Could you do it?
I went up the pole once, and it was amazing. I'm really glad that I did it, but I didn't need to do it again.
Yeah.
But like I can, even after touring with them I was with the company for about 10 years. Even after all that time, I would still have my heart in my mouth watching them, because. Yeah, even though it was a huge spectacle that you could see from a long way away, they could also, for people who were close, they could sway down and put a flower in a kid's hands. It was
Whoa.
really, really personal, but really,
Mm. So all along the way, you were out now as a gay man, and have you got a current partner?
I don't. I invested in someone that I met when I was on tour with Strange Fruit in Mexico, and we've been living together for
so
2.5
he
years.
came out.
He came out here,
right?
And we still get on fine, but it hasn't worked out in a partnership sense. So
you've worked in pubs and you performed in pubs and whatever, and you've had another business in the city, but now all of a sudden you've opened a new bar in Collingwood.
Seems like all of a sudden, but it's been a torturous experience thanks to the city of Yarra. We took on the lease of it's a beautiful old bank.
It's stunning. I walked past it the other night.
But only a part of the building was licensed, and we engaged a consultant liquor licensing consultant. He suggested it might be 3 to 6 months.
And how long was it?
About 18 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so we were trading in this massive space with a license for 38 people, and we could only use part of the building. But it's like about a month ago we finally got the permit and the liquor license, and we're over this weekend we're having lots of people through.
What's it called, by the way?
It's called Grouse.
Grouse Melbourne. Which is so typical you to use a name like Grouse. Who would use the name Grouse for a bar?
It was my family I think my niece suggested that. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's what it should be called.
How do you feel now that you've come out of this tunnel and you're at the end of the tunnel with it?
Well, we're still in the tunnel.
You're still in the tunnel.
Yeah, but it's but seeing some light.
So what would you say to people if they were going to do something like this? Would you say, stick with it, go with it?
Oh, look, it's interesting that on my walk to work, I walk to work every day, and there's a building in Fitzroy, and there's a quote that's painted on the side of the wall, and it says, "The only genius thing that we did was we kept going." And so many days I'd walk past and go, "Come on, yeah, come on." It's like there were lots of times I didn't think we were going to make it to the next week. And I'm the most hands-on of the partners. I'm the only one that's there full time. The responsibility for other people, because there's a lot of my family and 2 of my good mates who have put money in, and that's been the biggest concern for me. This big change came out of COVID because Strange Fruit couldn't keep operating because there was no touring, and then I sort of went on to JobKeeper, and then the company folded, and I was doing part-time jobs, and it was probably October or so 2020, and I just thought, I just had it in the back of my mind. When we sold 44, I thought I didn't want to get into hospitality again. But then it was just over the 2 years prior to COVID, it was just sort of, I reckon I wouldn't mind doing something. And I just went, if I don't take a risk now, I'm going to retire with absolutely nothing. And so I might as well give it a crack. And also, once I started thinking about it, ideas again, just lots and lots of ideas. And and now it's been tough, but it's like last night we had some little shows on. We had DJs. It was busy. The lights. It looks beautiful. Like it's all white walls in the bank, but we light it up like it's all. It just looks beautiful.
You live in the city, and you've lived in the heart of the city for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah, I can't imagine living anywhere else.
What's it like living in the heart of a metropolis like Melbourne?
It was weird during COVID, that's for sure.
Yeah, there wouldn't be anyone on the streets.
But,
and you would probably even stop, were you, at any stage because you were walking around?
Yeah. There were definitely times, because I'm right near Parliament House. So when a lot of the protests were on, and they were stopping people and checking for ID and stuff like that. But it's, on the other hand,
weird, wouldn't it? Like during that period that you were being stopped and it's your neighbourhood, you live there.
Well, it's funny though, because until you ask that question, it's the first time I've thought about that aspect of it. It's like there's so much of that time. Like I liked a lot of the lockdown, to be honest, but I reckon there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've blocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also live really close to Fitzroy Gardens, really close to Carlton Gardens. So that was, like my 5 kilometre walking radius during that time was just in absolute beauty.
And like Parliament House, what a spectacular building that is, which they've been renovating, and it's finished now, and it looks.
That's taken a long time.
It's taken a long time, hasn't it? But worth it because they've done a great job on it. Yeah, and that whole part of the world is, as you said, you've got so much, and you walk to work. You were telling me.
Yeah. I walk through Carlton Gardens and up Gertrude Street, and look, and Grouse is a tribute to Melbourne. I love Melbourne. Like I'm obsessed with Melbourne. So
likewise.
A lot of our decor is there's some collages of Melbourne, and then there's also a big picture of my mum working in a milk bar in the 50s.
Where do you see the future now, Trev? Is it a long journey now with this, that you're here for the long haul now?
Yeah. Well, what I'm hoping that now that we're getting some runs on the board is that the business is going for many years, and that I can, I'm getting close to retirement age now, and if I want to, but I think it's the kind of thing that I can, assuming it's successful, that I can then sort of scale back the hours that I do over a period of time. But at the moment, I really want to be there all the time.
Yeah, I bet you do. What about the local community? Have you got to know other shopkeepers and identities on the street?
Yeah, and we're fortunate that the other venue owners around there have been really supportive. People from Circuit and UBQ and 86 and Boardies, they've been, really supportive of us, and which has been nice. And then there's cafes and that around there that we know. So it's a real community.
It's not strictly a gay bar by any means, is it? It's just a mix.
No,
it's a lovely Melbourne trait, isn't it? You don't have to be a gay bar per se.
That's one of the things that I love, that 44, the place that we had in the city, the aim of Grouse is the same. It's to be inclusive, just be a decent person, treat other people with respect.
Yep.
And as it happens, that myself and Michael and Wes are in the queer community, and so we do have a lot of queer clientele. We want to create a space that everyone, we say it's a Grouse place for Grouse people. Just come in and be Grouse.
Yeah. Have you thought of, you mentioned retirement age coming up. Have you thought what you would like to do, or are you one of those people like me that just continues with life and whatever comes along?
Yeah, I never look too far ahead, which has resulted in me going all over the shop.
Well, but what such an interesting life you've lived.
Yeah, I've been.
You must look back and go, wow, and talking about it all today.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the Village People cover band, and it's just But it's been fun. Like your life has been a bit of a fun trip, hasn't it?
It's nuts. Yeah, it has been. I've had some incredible opportunities. Over COVID, I was doing some mentoring at with some high school kids, and just one of the things that I would always say to them is like, don't get too stressed if what you're doing isn't working for you at the moment. When I left high school, I started an accounting degree. I only did a year or so of that.
But hasn't that helped you though?
It's always,
Yeah.
And working in bars, like I went away from that, but then I come back. I'm working in the entertainment industry, the connections I've made.
In a hurry, aren't you, when you're younger? But I never felt that. I just sort of even as a young person, I just went along.
I just want to meet people. That's really what.
And have a good laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the old Saturn return, as they call it, at 27. Like I went overseas when I was 27, and then when I came back, I started working at the Last Laugh, the comedy theatre restaurant.
That's where you met so many of your friends, even to this day.
Yep, absolutely. So, and that was a seminal point. I knew that I wanted to work there.
Yep.
Like I went I loved going there, and I just went, I want to do that. And then I started, when I was working there, I did a bit of stand-up and started doing theatre, did some training in theatre and did lots of plays and comedy.
Trevor Wight, thank you so much
David.
for having a chat and good luck with the bar as well.
Yeah.
A big step, and and it's wonderful what you're doing.
Thanks.
I'm David Hunt, and we'll be back again real soon on Bent TV.